and guests on this May the 18th, 2022 to the Police Services Board meeting in Norfolk County. I'd like to remind everyone that our meetings are web streamed and televised. I would ask that you ensure your phones are on silence mode, keep your camera on and mute yourself if you're not speaking. And of course, remember to unmute yourself if you are speaking. If you're joining us virtually, please use Microsoft Teams raise hand feature. Oh, sorry. And if you could, being called upon, remove it after you finish speaking. With that, I call the meeting to order on May the 18th. I wanted to start out by saying this week is Police Week. So from May the 15th to the 21st, I just want to wish everyone a happy Police Week. So to all our police officers, to their staff, dispatchers, I want to thank you for your service. And I want to welcome our chief and the acting staff sergeants that are here present today. Welcome. So with that, I'm going to move on to the agenda. Number 3, approval of the agenda and changes to the agenda. So if I may, the amendments to the agenda, I would like to ask that Teresa Olson, our county clerk, be put forth on presentations, because I understand a meeting is to be held at 10 o'clock for her. So we'll put you on first for presentations prior to Mike King, if that's okay. And also, I'd like to add 9.3, the existing website update. It's going to be referenced to on exhibit number 1, or it's on the update on page 59. So I'll refer to it as exhibit number 1 with my agenda, or page 59. Then also add 9.4 update re-community policing budget as exhibit number 2 on my page, or page, I believe, 50. Just bear with me 1 second. I believe it's page 50 in the agenda. Okay. Also with that, in reference to changes to the agenda, I was just wondering through our board secretary, it refers to a stop sign with regards to Mike King, the director of engineering. I believe there's speed watches. Is that correct?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the operations team is present. I'll be able to speak to that more fulsomely regarding the request from the board with status updates on that.
Okay, but it's reference to speed watch signs, correct? Not
yes.
Stop signs.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Okay. So if we have no other changes, may I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended, please? Member Cruz. And seconded by Vice Chair Huffman. All in favor? Very good. Carried. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so moving on, point number 4 on the agenda. Are there any declarations of interest? Seeing none, we'll move on. Number 4, confirmation of the minutes from the previous meeting on page 3 of the agenda. So unless there's any errors or omissions, I'll require a motion. But if I may, I look on page 3 and I just want some confirmation on this. I look back at the notes of March, and it's here on page 3 of 58. Also present, it's here, Aaron Todd, so also Jim Wilson. My understanding of my notes is that Chief Johnson, he was present. That was missing. Staff Sergeant Flashing also here, if I'm not mistaken, and then Staff Sergeant Acting Staff Sergeant Page also, and Acting Staff Sergeant Fox, Acting Sergeant Ed Sanchez, I believe he's also here. And we had 2 deputations. And I believe the 2 deputations that we add for Chair Montgomery, the whole staff.
So through you, Mr. Chair, ordinarily the minutes only reflect senior staff and members of boards who are present, but if you'd like to add that, we can amend that.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, so unless there are any other errors or omissions, may I have a motion to approve the minutes as presented? Vice Chair Huffman, seconded by Cruz. All in favor? Okay, carried. Thank you. So we'll move on to presentations. I will ask now that our Norfolk County Clerk, Teresa Olson, put forth her presentation, please, and thank you. And if you could, Mrs. Olson, just refer to the pages in the agenda so that we can just follow you, if that's possible. Thank you.
Okay, just a sec. I have the wrong version open. So through the chair, I would like to speak to two reports on your agenda. So one is 9.2, which is on page 50. On page 50. So this is with respect to the Police Services Board auction account, as well as the budget within the Police Services Board. So as the board is aware, there is a Police Services Board auction fund, which is consists of the funds provided by the OPP from auction sales of unclaimed items or items that they have retrieved from different activities. And the sale of those proceeds come back to the Police Services Board to use for special projects. Over the years, there has been a separate account outside of the county where these funds have been stored. The account has been set up with signing authorities of the current chair and vice chair of the day. So over the last few years, Norfolk County has experienced some turnover of staff in a number of departments, and the Police Services Board function has also changed between departments. And there seemed to have been a disconnect over the years, and that account kind of got misunderstood where it was, who had controlship of it. And so because it was not under Norfolk County's purview, we just weren't aware it was there. The statements were not coming to us. And so it only came to our attention in clerks because a Police Services Board member asked about it. So we've done a deep dive over the last few months to figure out where that account is, what's happening with it. It is a bit of a challenge having an account outside of the county controlship, especially when there needs to be oversight and audit functions of it. We did a scope and a scan of neighboring municipalities, and all of them have that Police Services Board count in the custody of the municipality in some format, either through a reserve account or a general ledger. So we are here to ask the Police Services Board to allow us to do the same thing with this auction account. We would bring it into the county, would be a county account, but it would be designated solely for Police Services Board usage as specified under the Police Services Act. That way we could make sure that no matter what happens, if a chair leaves or a vice chair leaves, if a staff member leaves, that we will always know that account exists. We will have a way to audit it appropriately and manage the fund. We would suggest that the policy that regulates that fund would still be in place. So the Police Services Board would have access to that money for whatever manner they are allowed to use it as per their policy. And you would simply make that request through the board administrator. Board administrator would send that request to finance. Finance would cut the check. Right now, we have to figure out, get a check made. We have to get people to sign it. We have to go to a separate bank that isn't ours. That all takes time. It would be a much more efficient process through the county. So within the report, we just provide some context of the money that is available in that account. We would like, if the board approves this, we would like to close that account within the next month, bring the funds to the county, and then move forward. Also attached is the current policy and a proposed policy that could just clarify some of those pieces. And then we would just, again, ask the board if they're okay with that. We'll bring the revised policy back to the next meeting for formal approval. So I'm happy to answer any questions should the board have any.
Yeah, no, just a comment. Thank you for, it was a very thorough report, nicely done. And I like the fact that it's simpler. And also from a board perspective, that it's properly audited. That's important. So certainly support the request.
Member Cruz? If I may, County Clerk Olson, so what I understand is there's $258.72 left with the CIBC.
Through the chair. No, in the CIBC account is 3,100 and change. The $200 was, and that's part of what happened with us finding out about this other account, was I received a check last fall from the OPP for 200 and some dollars. I sent it to finance, assuming that it was all done here. They put it in a suspense account because they didn't know what to do with it. And then I had conversations with you and we kind of discovered that there was this account that I wasn't aware of. So the $200 will be included with that 3,100 when we bring that 3,100 back to the county. So in total, you'll have about $3,400 at this time. So that's another story. So that will be in my second update.
Mr. Chair, can I ask that you change microphones? The other one would work better. Apologies.
Is that better? Thank you.
That's better. Thank you.
Okay, so I have no other questions. Do the board members have any other questions to Mrs. Olson? So if not, now Mrs. Olson, we can move and I can read what I have in front of me with regards to staff report, which I think would be a good idea. So I'll leave it up to the members here. So this is what I will do. I'm going to request a mover and a seconder for the following motion: that staff report CAO 22-065 regarding Police Services Board budget and auction fund bank account be received for information, and that the board approve the closing of the auction fund bank account at the CIBC Bank here in Simcoe, and that the transferring of the funds to the control of the Norfolk County to be set up in the designation General Ledger Account for the Police Services Board of Norfolk, used as outlined in policy NCP SP-02. Successor policy be approved by the Police Services Board, and that the board directs staff to proceed with amending policy NCP SP-02 action funds to reflect the changes outlined within the staff report of CAOA 22-065. So can I have a mover and a seconder? Vice Chair Huffman has moved, seconded by Member Van Houten. All in favor? Okay, it's carried. So Mrs. Olson?
Thank you through the chair. So the next matter is with respect to the Community Policing Committee budget. And I apologize, I had planned to have a report before the board today, but unfortunately just timing and resource shortages in my department has not allowed me the time to put that together. But I did want to give the Police Services Board an update because I did mention to the Community Policing Committee that I would get a report before the board. So we are still trying to piece together all of the budget impacts from the Community Policing Committee. Unfortunately, when all of the local boards were brought together into one advisory board under council, it was shortly before COVID hit. And unfortunately, as we all know, COVID really played havoc with our activities and our functions. And so it was unfortunately one of those casualties that got put to the side. And again, over the last couple of years, there's been a lot of staffing change. So trying to pull all of those pieces together to understand the whole intent of the board and how it was all to come together has been a bit of a challenge for us. We are very close to piecing it together. But what I wanted to just let the board know is that currently the county has allocated $8,000 in the annual budget for Community Policing Committee initiatives. And so we believe there may be additional funds, but we need to finalize that and bring that forward in the report. But right now, I just wanted to let you know that if the Community Policing Committee would like to do some initiatives before the end of this year, there was $8,000 allocated. So the other piece that I wanted to mention, and that is what pertains to the Crime Stoppers Fund, is that this $8,000 has been allocated annually since 2020. But because there was this miscommunication about the police services auction fund account, and the police service board was allocating donations to Crime Stoppers each year, and internally we were not aware of that auction fund account or had forgotten about it. That money was coming out of that $8,000 annually of the community policing committees, because there was a misunderstanding that that was a grant fund for the PSB. So the donation we made in January, I believe, has come out of that account, which means that it would reduce it to $6,000. So when I bring that report forward, the Police Services Board will have to determine whether they want to leave it out of that fund if they don't think the Community Policing Committee will allocate a full $6,000 initiative this year, or if they want to transfer from that $3,400 that we will be bringing in-house to replace that. So I just wanted to give you an update on that, and I wanted you to be aware of that for the Community Policing Committee for the remainder of this year. But you can expect a report at the next Police Services Board meeting, which I recognize may not be till the fall, but if we feel that there is an urgency to deal with any of the matters before that, we will ask the chair to call a special meeting. If there's any questions, I would be happy to answer them.
Any questions? Member Van Houten?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this happened in 2022. The 2,000 came from the 8,000, correct? Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Through the chair to Member Van Houten. So it actually happened in 2021 as well. But of course, a budget doesn't carry over. It ends at the end of the year. So there's nothing we can do about last year's, and the Community Policing Committee was not active last year, so it would not have affected anything.
Okay, just thank you, because what I was trying to get a read on is how long back has this happened this way, so that that we have a clear understanding of how much leeway we have within the Police Service Board's budget. Because if that 2,000 would have been out of the proper account, and we'd have been down 1,400 roughly right now, right? So that's what I was trying to get a read on.
Through the chair to Member Van Houten, I believe that this has occurred 2020, 2021, and now 2022.
Another question, Vice Chair Huffman, please.
Thank you, Chair Santos. Through you to Ms. Olson. So just so I've got my numbers right, the 2,000 came out of the 8,000, so we've got a $6,000 balance in the community policing initiatives, correct?
In the annual allocation that the county provided,
Right.
Yes.
Okay. In the past, if I'm not mistaken, the community policing, their budgets were like per group $250 or something like that. It was a very minuscule amount. So I'm quite confident with just leaving things the way they are this year, and then we can rectify them going forward in the future. I don't think they'll end up using $6,000 community initiatives between now and the end of the year.
Mrs. Olson, would you like to comment?
Through the chair. So the report that's coming forward, actually, what I understand or what I've gathered at this time is that the community policing groups were actually given $2,000 annually each. Yes, and that was reduced when it became a advisory committee of council in 2019 to a different amount. And again, there's just a few things that have happened over the last 2 years because of COVID. So I would really like to bring that report forward with the concrete information so the board can make a very informed decision. I also recognize it's May. The Community Policing Committee is actively reviewing their terms of reference, because I think, the fact that we created this group and then COVID happened and we haven't been able to meet, you know, it's going to take them some time to figure out what their mandate is, what they need to do. You know, I'm just mindful of where we are in the year, that might be an adequate amount for what we can actually get off the ground in the next 6 months. But if we can get everything streamlined and corrected and fulsomely ready for 2023, I think that would be a great start for the community.
So if I can ask this question, so if the Community Policing Committee requested funds, let's just say for the summer for an activity, how much then would be in the account? And so that I understand, if they require any monies, what is the amount that's in the account now for them, if they have any?
So through the chair, as I said, the county allocates $8,000 for that purpose. And I believe we've taken the $2,000 from the Crime Stoppers out of that account at this time, leaving it at a $6,000 balance. But again, that could be rectified by the board moving the auction fund monies back into that account should they wish to.
And the next question is, so there's signing authorities for that with these the community policing account in that regard. So say, let's say the 6,000 there, and if they're wanting to do a summer program, they can allocate possibly out of that $6,000. And would it be the chair and the vice chair of that community policing group? Just so that I understand.
So through the chair, no, that's actually not how it works. The county allocates the money, and the way the terms of reference for the community policing have been written is that they are to put a business plan forward to the Police Services Board for approval of how that money is to be spent. Once the Police Services Board approves that, then the committee would simply make a request to the board administrator. The board administrator would allocate those funds based on invoices or requirements, and that would come from the county under the county's signing authority. But as long as the Police Services Board approves the plan for the Community Policing Committee, then those funds would be expended.
Okay, thank you for the answer. I'm just looking at it for the time frame. So if, let's just say, for example, they want signage in Cortland, and that proposal comes to us, and we only meet in September, nothing's going to actually happen for about 3 or 4 months. But I would think that staff would make something happen in the meantime. Do you understand where I'm coming from, County Clerk?
So through the chair, absolutely. That's part of the reason why we're doing the review with the committee on the terms of reference, because again, when this was set up, the team I currently have in the clerk's office, none of us were a part of that. So we're not 100% certain how things were set up the way they were. The way the terms of reference are written, it indicates that the committee would have submitted this business plan for the year in January, and the board would have approved it, and then they would have done these projects. Unfortunately, the fact that we just got off the ground in February, and the board, the committee is trying to determine what their role is and what they want to do, has kind of put a little bit of a hiccup in that. And then I'm not sure if they're going to be ready to go, but absolutely, we will try to work with them. Unfortunately, the terms of reference are set as they are, and we may have to call a special meeting if they come up with a project they want to do, or perhaps we can bring something forward to council to have council amend the terms of reference to allow staff some flexibility to do that. Again, this is just what was approved in 2019, and we haven't had an opportunity to review it in full and bring it back for changes or recommended amendments.
Okay, thank you for the update. Any other questions from the board members? Okay.
Thank you.
Mrs. Olson, thank you for your time and your effort and organizing and putting forth all these hours to guide us as a police service board. I appreciate that. And we look forward to seeing you back in September.
Thank you. Have a good meeting.
Okay, everyone, so we'll move on to the
Sorry,
presentations.
Mr. Chair, can we just receive and file that as information?
I beg your pardon?
Mr. Chair, can we just have a motion to receive and file that presentation from the county clerk?
Motion is made by Mr. Cruz, seconded by is Vice Chair Huffman. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Thank you, Board Secretary. Okay, we'll move on to presentations. Point 6 on page 2. I believe we have Mr. Mike King, the Director of Engineering, speak to us in reference to speed watch locations. So if Mr. King is in, please.
Yes, good morning, everyone. I believe for the speed watch, that would be Mr. Pie Hunter. I believe I'm here to talk about stop signs.
Okay, thank you. Apologize for the confusion.
Good morning, everyone. I'll be completely honest with you. It kind of caught me off guard with the speed watch signs. We weren't prepared for this. We were prepared for the stop signs. So what I can do is I can open the floor up to any questions you have regarding the speed watch signs, and hopefully we can get you some answers.
So Mr. Hunter, if you wish, we can have Mr. King speak first on reference or in reference to the stop sign or stop signs. And then if you don't mind, I might have a question or two in regards to the speed watch, if that's okay.
Sure, that sounds fantastic.
Okay, gentlemen. So we'll start with Mr. King.
Yes, thank you very much. Morning, everybody. I don't really have any formal presentation, but if you allow me, I can share my screen because I believe that the Police Services Board required an update for all new stop signs installed recently. So if you just bear with me, and I will share my screen, and you can let me know if you're able to actually see it.
We can see your screen.
Okay, thank you very much. So just give a little bit of history. I've been with Norfolk since June of 2020. In my early PI days, there was a backlog of requests for always stop, speed reductions. So through the support of senior management, we brought forth a few policies that were approved by council. One was for an always stop policy, which I will share later. So it really speaks to the actual warrants and the criteria that we look at when we have requests for always stops. So since 2020, we have installed basically 8 of them. So Simcoe, Argyle at Lyndale / by Wilson. This was a request of a resident who came to council with a deputation from 2018. We retained an engineer to do the review on the warrants, and it was met on actual volume. For Waterford College and Pajan, this was part of a reconstruction project, and there was a sightline issue with the existing house and actual hedge. The most recent one in Waterford is Thompson and actually Duncombe. This was the request of a person through a signed petition. And in our always stop policy warrants, if 75% of the people within 250 meters of the intersection are in support, then staff will bring forth a report with a recommendation to install it. Moving on to Port Dover, Magnolia, and Birch. Again, this was a resident request. It was a sightline issue with overgrown hedge. Port Dover, Nelson, and Maple. This hasn't been installed yet because we're still working on the final resurfacing work out there, sidewalk. But again, this wasn't a resident request in the signed petition, which they got over 75% support. For Delhi, St. Anne, and Ajabel, again, this was a sightline issue. The intersection is a little bit offset. There was existing issue with a hedge again and a house. And I think Rhodes is working on this one still. It's almost installed. Port Ryerson, Hilltop, and Evans. Again, this was a sightline request. There was a hill there, so sightlines were not met. And the final one, I'm sure everyone's aware of this one, was rural for Thompson Road and the Cockshut Road. This was an ongoing study with engineering since 2014. We looked at various options with actually like a roundabout, but the easiest one would be the all-way stop, and the warrants were met based on the volume and the MBAs. And under review right now, currently we have Evergreen and actually Oak in Simcoe, which is adjacent at the high school, and Ireland and Victoria because of the increased volumes on Victoria and also actually Ireland. So that's just an overview of the 8 locations that we've installed since 2020. So I'll stop there and ask if there's any questions.
Are there any questions, the board members? Member Van Houten?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. King. Just for clarification purposes, so if residents of any community out there see a situation where they think it might be beneficial for 4-way stops or additional stops, do they make the request directly to the county's road department? Is that how that goes?
Through the chair to Member Van Houten, I think most of the requests come through for service by Norfolk, or they may come to engineering, and they may come to actually maybe roads. But I think we're trying to funnel them all through Service Norfolk.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Santos. Through you to Mike. So is this the first update then that the police are receiving in terms of the new stop signs, or is there another method in place that they get this information?
Through the chair to Member Huffman. Whenever we do a new installation, whether it's for reduced speed reductions or zones or always stops, we do send a notification through to the OPP that they have been installed.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, any other questions? No? Seeing none? Mr. King, thank you very much for your presentation.
Yes, thank you very much. And I will share this with Aaron. Plus, I will attach and send him the always stop policy as well.
Sorry, Mr. Hunter, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I'm open. I can open the floor to questions if you'd like. I'm not entirely sure what information you're looking for regarding the speed sign. So if you'd like to ask some questions, I'm here for that.
Sure. If I can ask a question, I understand there's 8 speed watch signs that were installed in Norfolk County. Could you give us the locations? I know of 2, so I'm missing out on the 6.
Actually, we have quite a few more than that. We have, I believe, 12 new signs, and then there were 6 existing signs. So the existing signs that were kind of the first batch of signs that we had a couple of years ago, they are on Thompson Road near Villanova. Those are 2 signs, one in each direction. We have 2 on Highway 6. That would be just on the outside of Port Dover near the Carpet One store. And then we had 2 on Colonel Talbot Road in the west end near Maybe's Corners. Now, we were having some issues with those particular signs and being damaged, so we have moved those to Highway 59 near Andy's Corners. So those are like I said, those are the 6 existing ones that we had previously. And then the 12 that we purchased this past year, there's 2 installed on Old Highway 24 near Bloomberg. There are 4 on Norfolk Street, 2 in the south, 2 in the north. There's 1 on Church Street in Delhi. There's 2 on Cockshot Road near Renton. There's 1 in Lyndoch and 2 on Radical Road. And I can send that to you as well. And I can actually get that mapped if you'd like. I can have our GIS group put that on a map for you if it's better visually.
Or you're referring to Church Street in Delhi. Whereabouts?
It's just almost on the way outside of town, just before Brantford Road. It was on the way into Delhi. I can try and pull up the GIS and actually visualize it a little better for you. Just bear with me 1 second.
Vice Chair Huffman, I saw your hand, so let's wait for the answer here.
Yeah, I seen that sign just lately. When you come to Brantford Road, when you take the 90-degree angle going into Delhi, it's just up there. You know, not even.
That's right. Yeah.
There. Yeah.
It's essentially to slow down the speeders coming off of the Brantford Road coming into town. So it's just there's a farmer's field, an open section there where we had an ideal spot for these things. They're not obstructing anybody's view, not doing anything to the residential areas. Bear with me, I've got the GIS up now.
So, Mr. Hunter.
Yes.
I'm satisfied with the answer. So,
Sure.
no problem. I'm aware of the area, but I wasn't sure if there was one there. But thank you very much. So I'm going to put the next question to Vice Chair Huffman.
Thank you, Chair Santos. Through you to Devin. Good morning, Devin.
Morning.
I was just wondering, are the speed watch signs on Thompson Road in Villanova, are they back up and running? Because I've noticed the last couple of weeks they've been down and out.
They are not. So we're having some battery issues with that. We're not entirely sure. Those are the old batch. So we're still trying to troubleshoot them. We thought maybe once the batteries kind of warmed up after that cold winter that they would kind of regenerate. We're not having any luck. So we are going to have an electrician go and take a look, see if they can troubleshoot. If not, we will purchase new signs for that location.
And also on my way into PSB this morning, I noticed that there were some Norfolk County trucks at the one speed watch sign in Bloomsburg. I'm just all over you, sorry.
I like it.
And was wondering if you could tell me what they were doing with that one.
Well, that is being reconstructed this year and the sign is encroaching on the construction area. So we are moving it a little bit more offset from the side of the road.
Okay, I figured it had something to do with the construction. I wasn't sure just with the detours and stuff like that. So,
Yep.
Okay, that answers my question. Thanks a lot, Evan.
Any other questions of Mr. Hunter? Seeing none. Mr. Hunter, thank you very much for the presentation.
Great, thank you.
So seeing that, may I have a motion to receive the presentation, please? Vice Chair Huffman. Seconded by Mr. Van Houten. All in favor? All right, it's carried. Thank you. So we'll move on. Okay, so deputations, I believe we have none. Or sorry, presentations. 5.2, Police Chief Johnson, Friday the 13th, Fort Dover update. And Chief, if you can also give us some other updates, if that's possible. So I will leave the floor up to you, Chief, if that's possible.
Morning, Chair Santos, members of the board, members of staff. Thank you very much for having us here today. Yes, I can do the PD 13 first and then move into some other operational updates, or I can do PD 13 and then give the updates further in the agenda, whichever you prefer. But the Friday the 13th, first of all, before I start, my condolences to there's a family that had lost a loved one in a motor vehicle collision. Although our event overall was successful, it's never successful when you lose a life. And there was a motor vehicle collision involving a motorcyclist and a car that appeared to be somebody who had attended our function and was leaving. So to those members of the family and friends, our condolences go to them. Overall, the event was run very well. The cooperation, and special thanks to the planning committee. I know our acting staff sergeant Rob Page is a member of that. Other members from council or staff, EMS, fire, members of council or staff from Norfolk County. Obviously, as the years have passed, we've learned and we've gotten better and better at it. And this is obviously a success. This reaps the benefits of the experience that's brought to the table. We estimate probably around 100,000 people were in attendance this one. Honestly, we thought there may even be more with the way the weather was looking, but we were happy with the attendance that came. Overall, policing wise, we had over 300 OPP members in attendance from West Region, obviously from Norfolk County, from all over West Region, some representation from Central Region, as well as the Greater Toronto area, and members from Aurelia, including aviation and other specialty services like biker enforcement. So the event really ran from the Thursday night with the beer tents, which were no significant issues to report on that. Started up with a full event on Friday morning with our officers arriving and the people arriving, and the day ramped up like it normally does, and then beer tents into the evening. We had 36 total calls for service, which is lower than other years. The majority of those calls, 7 of those were assist ambulance. So they weren't even really police calls other than to go and assist the ambulance in something else. 5 of the calls were motor vehicle collisions. So even though we had 1 fatal motor vehicle collision, we had 4 other ones within the county, within that zone. One that was property damage and other ones that were minor personal injuries. With regards to motor vehicle collisions, there were some other collisions that we can't say were directly related to this event outside of our area. 1 or 2 in Oxford, 1 or 2 in Haldeman, and 1 in Burlington. But they were all involving motorcycles, so we just generally assumed, especially considering our media attention and the proactive work that our media was doing with regards to vehicle safety and motorcycle awareness. We're happy to say that there weren't a lot of offenses. There were 5 tickets laid. So there wasn't a lot of alcohol-related incidents or traffic violations, if you will. All in all, I believe we'll be having an operational debrief with the planning committee next week and take away lessons learned so we can build for upcoming years. But subject to any other questions that the chair or the board have with regards to it,
it's not a question, it's a comment. I was down to the event on Friday afternoon, mid-afternoon, around 2:30ish with my wife and my family and some friends. We walked the entire event, Port Dover event, through Main Street, went down to the pier, up through where the Norfolk is, down by the Legion and all that. And I just thought it was run significantly well. We felt safe, secure. Everybody that was around us and everybody we had contact with thought the same thing. If there was a problem, all we had to do was turn around and there was an officer in sight. Very, very well laid out there too. Auxiliary officers were doing a fabulous job as well. And I just wanted to say thank you very much. Through the chair, you did it. I thought you did a wonderful job. The Marine unit was down at the pier. They were talking to the kids. They were quite a sight there. Motorcycle officers were right down across there. They were quite a sight, taken off. I know the crowd and the kids loved that. The drone unit was new to a lot of people. That's quite a sight as well. So my congratulations to you and your staff and the auxiliary officers. I thought everything was very well run. We felt safe, secure, and it was great.
Through you, Chair Santos, thank you very much. I appreciate your feedback, and those comments were a lot of the feelings that we were hearing on the ground from the officers reporting back. A very positive interaction, a lot of positive feedback with regards to the people that were attending. So back to Norfolk County, I do want to acknowledge the efforts and the commitment to your staff, the fire chief, the EMS, and the county staff. They're second to none. The cooperation and the support we had makes the event really special. So thank you very much for your comments.
Mr. Chair, your speaker's not on.
Does that work now? Yeah, I'll use my old one. Take the new one out. So just to add, with my own eyes, was amazing. Living in Halden, Norfolk for 52 years, I saw collaboration amongst EMS, the police, fire, ambulance, all under one roof. I saw familiar faces. I saw Acting Sergeant Sanchuk, who took 2 minutes to introduce one of his co-workers from Dryden, I believe it was. He was showing around, and that officer from Dryden was amazed, and his eyes were open wide. He couldn't believe how organized and how things were coming together. This is something I think that the Ontario Police College in Elmer might want to pick up on and
Mr. Chair, can we take a 5-minute recess just to get some IT figured out? 5 minutes. Mr. Chair, we are live. Can I ask that everyone confirm their mic is on? Perfect, thank you.
That must be a sign from up above, not to talk too much, but nevertheless, are there any other questions or concerns or comments to our police chief? Vice Chair Huffman, please.
Thank you, Chair Santos. I just want to echo a lot of the sentiments. Heard great feedback from attendees, from residents of Norfolk County as well. So a big shout out to everyone involved. And I know, like you, the first time I saw the command center, I was blown away. I was telling Member Cruz it is something like Member Van Houten that it's something like out of a movie. It's quite, like you said, it's a well-oiled machine. So thank you to everybody. And again, too, a special shout out to Norfolk County staff. I heard the next day that when people in Dover, for example, went to go get breakfast, that it was like nothing had ever taken place. Garbage pails were empty, streets were cleared, and it was back to regular Port Dover. So hats off to everybody. I think we're getting this down to a fine art. So hats off.
Seconded by Member Van Houten. All in favor? Okay, it's carried. Sorry, we're going to continue to move on with our agenda. Point number 6 of deputations. I understand we have no deputations today. Is that correct? Secretary?
That's correct, Mr. Chair. There is no deputation.
Okay, very good. So we'll continue on. Point 7 of consent to the agenda. We've got 7.1, 7.2. So we have our police chief here. Are there any questions in reference to the stats that have been highlighted for March and the stats that have been highlighted for April of this year? Chief, would you like to comment?
Yes, if I may, Chair Santos, thank you very much. I just want to draw your attention to the April foot patrol hours on page 17 of 61. They appear low, even though here we are into May. Should anyone have any attention to that, part of the challenge is those are collected through our data activity reporting system. And because of Friday the 13th, we had to do a data extraction early outside of our normal reporting cycle. So we had to get the information into this report to be disseminated earlier than we normally would. So those are artificially low. when you see those numbers. So I don't want the board to think that our foot patrol and visibility is not where it ought to be. That's just a reporting. And if there's no other questions with regards to the report, I would, Mr. Chair, like an opportunity to just highlight a few things of police operations during my time here.
Hey, Chief, if I may, I have 4 questions from the reports, and then I'll leave the floor back to you. If I can ask everyone here to turn to page 33. So page 33 is false alarms. Now, I've noted here, Chief, that in the month of April, we had 54 false alarms, and false alarms continue to create a lot of work here for the OPP. I'm just trying to understand here why these numbers continue to be so high. Is there any explanation? So far, up until the end of April, it says here we have 167 false alarms.
Those, Chair Santos, regrettably, false alarms are such a challenge because they're privately owned and operated. And, you know, there's a lot of education piece that we attempt. So when our officers do respond, we have, you know, discussions with the property owner or the manager or whoever may be in that key holder or facility to do their due diligence. But it's really put back on the private citizen or the business owner or the homeowner to do their part in ensuring that their alarm system is properly functioning, not in a repeat offense issue. And unfortunately, out of 54, I don't know how many are repeat issues.
Thank you, Chief, because I know in the past, this has taken up a lot of our time, and I know there's fines, but I just wondered if there was any clear indication, but understood. Okay, and the next
Mr. Chair?
question, Chief, if I may, on page 35.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair. I just may, my staff sergeant suggested to me that one thing he has experienced, and I can't speak anecdotally with regards to this, they could be weather related also. You know, if the spring brings heavy winds and we're in the cottage area or other places in which cause any windows rattling or doors rattling or anything, that may be something that may be a cause for that. But again, without any firm data, I can't say that that's exactly what it is. Thank you, Chair Santos, for the question. The Collision Reporting Center is something that is indeed managed through the Communications Center. It is not something that people have to use. It's something that's encouraged to use because it becomes a policing efficiency. So what ends up happening is there's a checklist that our Communications Center operators or call takers have with regards to is there significant personal injury? Is there criminality? Are a couple of the biggest ones. So if it's property damage, if it's a minor injury that people don't need to be treated or anything else, we give them the option and we encourage them to come and report it, have their vehicle towed or drive their vehicle to Queensway to report it. Because what it does is it saves our officers from leaving a call for service or leaving an area of focused patrol to go and investigate a collision that is non-emergent, if you will. It's also a better service delivery model in the sense that the people don't need to go leave the scene and go there directly and out of their way. They may say, hey, I have to come to Simcoe. They may live in Delhi and they didn't come to, they hit a car, deer or something last night. So instead of waiting for a police officer to attend or reporting last night, they're coming to work tomorrow morning. it's a service delivery model that allows them to come on their own time and still meet the needs of the Highway Traffic Act of reporting of anything that's over $2,000.
My mic keeps going off and on, so forgive me if you can hear me and then you can't hear me, but I'll do my best to move on here. So any other questions? No, I have one other question. That's on page 39, and this is a fairly serious question. I posed this question, Chief, back in March, and I'm going to pose it again here in May. The numbers of sexual assault and assaults are high. And for me, it's concerning. When I look at this and I say sexual assaults from last year, we have 17, and this year we have 24. There's a 41% or 41.2% increase. And then assaults, I see that there's a 2.5% increase. These numbers to me are alarming and they're fairly high. So Chief, can I get a comment, or is there something that the OPP can do, of meeting of the minds with women's shelter, or something that can happen that we can hopefully look at ways to bring these numbers down?
Thank you, Chair Santos, for the question. I echo, or I share your concerns with regards to the high numbers, and we do a lot of, analytical review and considerations. And I guess I would say, one, as you've seen me here in the last 4 months, that I am very much into collaboration and support with the community groups, Women's Shelter, Victim Services, MCERT, any other community groups. But the one thing that I do, numbers alone are very interesting, because some would say an increase in numbers of reported crime is a bad thing. Whereas I would suggest to you that we are working with those community partners to say this is a good thing, because as I had referenced before, we never know what happens behind closed doors. We never know what happens in a private relationship or something. So to put a thought on it, that this is a positive news story in the sense that these events have been happening most likely for years and years, and they have gone unreported, and that there's not an environment in which is supportive, is inclusive, and is holding somebody accountable. And so ideally, I would like to have 0 in those numbers, but I would be concerned that the 0 in numbers of sexual assault or domestic assault or any of those types of things are not true reflections of what's happening in the community, versus an increase in the numbers, which none of us want to see, but we want to make sure that we've created an environment in which victims of crime are coming forward and feeling that they're being heard and feeling that we're holding somebody accountable. Because every time that we do that, that gets shared with somebody else, and then they feel that finally they have a voice. So I know it's a little bit of a different thought process when you see a 41% increase, which I never want to see in police data increases in things except proactive work. But when I meet with our members, we think about what do we do, how do we do this better, to put it behind closed doors or put it under a rug and hope that it doesn't happen, is, I think, a fallacy and not good for our community. We want to embrace, we want to welcome people coming forward, if I may.
That was well put, Inspector. I think these numbers are just the tip of the iceberg with respect to sexual assaults, domestic assaults. My understanding is most sexual assaults and domestic assaults are not reported. And I think it is nice to see that the victims, some victims are feeling more comfortable to come and report. And that I think that's what's being reflected there. We'll never know. It'll take a long time to. Thank you.
Through you, Chair, thank you very much for your comments. Honestly, as I had indicated in our last meeting, every Monday morning we review these numbers, and I look at it and I think to myself, and this will springboard into my next proactive discussion or workload discussion. But if we can get people to keep their hands to themselves and educate them around, the proper respect and bodies and human and dignity and all those things, then we move forward with that. And that is the education piece. That is the piece that we don't just accept these numbers. We continuously do what we can with our, the Women's Shelter and Victim Services and other agencies to make sure that we reach out to people to make sure there are safety planning. I'm not saying that it's all reactive. There's a lot of proactive stuff. We're giving people cell phones so that they can call anytime this happens, and they're in a cycle. So anyway, thank you, Chair.
Chief, my phone, or sorry, my mic keeps going off. So if you could just update us for the last 4 months, Chief, of being here in Norfolk County and what you've seen and the progress that has happened.
Thank you, Chair Santos and the members of the board. That's a great springboard because of when your question on page 39, I just want to champion, as you know, I've been here for the last 4 months, and as I introduced myself originally, I was happy to come, and I am very happy to be here. I can tell you, you need to be very proud of the members of your police service here. I can assure you that there is from the leadership group to the NCOs to the civilian staff and the members, there appears to be very good morale that are very community focused. And I just want to highlight a few of the things that some of our units have done. And the first one is exactly that, the issues with our crime unit and the work they're doing day in and day out that the community doesn't get to see. We've had actually 40 significant calls of service where our officers have investigated 32 sexual assaults, 4 child luring, 3 child pornography investigations, and 1 human trafficking. So those are the types of things that they're not public facing, but take a significant amount of resources behind the scenes, and our officers work day in and day out to make sure not only your officers here in Norfolk, but they bring in members of other police services, the Joint Force Initiatives, and the Ontario Provincial Police in Aurelia to make sure that we do what we can to solve those so that no victim, it's a very victim-centered approach. We've our crime unit has also regrettably investigated 5 opioid deaths in the area. Again, it's something that is not only in Norfolk, but happening throughout the province, throughout the country. Opioid deaths are an epidemic that we're working on, but those again, we try to hold the people accountable that are supplying the drugs to the people who are overdosing. You may have remembered we had a robbery in Delhi at the Circle K a couple months ago. I'm pleased to say that through some investigative work by our people, a subject was identified and subsequently charged out of that. So again, a successful conclusion to an event in our community. And an interesting one, we have one of our members took a significant interest in catalytic converter thefts. Again, not everybody, unless you're a victim of one or you own a business who have new vehicles that would have lost some, not everybody's aware of that, but one of our members took a significant interest in this and ultimately became a part of a team outside of Norfolk County. I just want to highlight this because what ends up happening is, as a result of our member working with some people in Halton region and the GTA, successful conclusion has resulted in a couple members outside of this area being charged. Basically, what was happening is they were stealing catalytic converters at night, transporting them. They would go through Toronto up to Ottawa and being dismantled for the precious metals. So, and it was really on the backs of one of our members who was championing that efforts that brought it all together in cooperation with somebody in the with our regional police services. We have had a number of search warrants done by our community crimes unit that have taken things such as cocaine, fentanyl, blue fentanyl, white fentanyl, methamphetamine, pink fentanyl, Xanax pills, Canadian currency, knives, a gun, all off the streets in the last few months with numerous people charges with numerous criminal offenses. Again, things that we don't always aren't always forward facing, but they work hard day in and day out. With regards to our proactive work, we have written just under 2,000 provincial offenses tickets for violations in Norfolk County in this first quarter. So our officers are out there making sure that are doing their contribution to traffic safety. We've been doing ride programs, and I'm sure you've seen in the media a number of impaired drivers have been taken off the road, but we've checked 1,800 motor vehicles in ride checks in this first quarter. And then finally, traffic stops. You know, we all know that if we're seen out there, we're a part of a deterrent. The public expects us to be out there, be visible in our black and white cars and unmarked vehicles. And so just for your awareness, in 2021, we at this same time, we did 1,258 traffic stops. This year, we're at 1,462. So our overall traffic contacts are up, which is a good news story. Not saying that our violations are up. It's not all about violations. It's about interactions and education and awareness. And I am hopeful when we run those foot patrol statistics that you will see an increase in that also. I don't have those numbers at my hand, but I do know that your command team here have been meeting with the sergeants and the new recruits to make sure that they know that that's our priority. Especially, you know, the good weather's here, people are out, we want them visible, we want them seen, we want them interacting with the community. So those are just a couple highlights of the events. And then finally, those who may or may not have seen the media this morning, I'm pleased to report to the Police Services Board that your local community street crime unit, in conjunction with Oxford, Elgin, Middlesex units, the emergency response team, as well as the provincial joint force cannabis team, effected a warrant yesterday in just outside Simcoe on Highway 24. Subsequently, it's still under investigation, but preliminary information is that we have were successful in identifying approximately $20 million of marijuana street value within this location. So there's more information to come with regards to what charges look like and the outcome of the investigation. But I just want the community to have comfort in knowing that we are doing all they can to provide an adequate, effective police service. I want you as the board to know that we're doing all we can to make sure that the residents of Norfolk County feel safe in their community. And that's number one in our hearts. It's number one. It's our commitment to you that we will do all we can to continue that. As you know, I know that Chair Santos will speak further about identifying a new detachment commander, but I commit to you as a board that as that process unfolds, that I will work with transferable skills and abilities to make sure that whatever successes we as a group have championed in 2022 carry on for you and your community. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chief Johnson. Excellent presentation. And if I can just add to that before we go to questions, if there are any questions, I just wanted to bring to everyone's attention earlier this morning, Acting Sergeant Sanchuk was here. And over the last 3 weeks, I have heard him on the radio. I have seen him at McHappy Day at McDonald's. I've seen him at the Shredding Crime Stoppers event here in Simcoe. I saw him with the Shoppers Drug Mart. I believe was bringing the pills or medication. I mean, he's everywhere. And I know he's representing the OPP and, of course, Norfolk County. But it's an asset to have a gentleman such as Acting Sergeant Sanchuk around not only for communication purposes, but also interacting with the public. I mean, when my son says to me, "Hey, Dad, did you hear on Twitter, Acting Sergeant Sanchuk?" I said, "No." So he has connected with the youth through social media, something that I am old school to. But I mean, it's very important when you connect with the youth. And I'm saying a 17-year-old in high school, bringing to us as a family around the table, hey, connecting with Ed Sanchuk, OPP, very important. So, Chief, I just wanted to make mention of that, and I know he stepped out, but if you can just relay that positive affirmation coming in from the Norfolk Police Services Board, I think it's important. Not enough positivity is heard from the general public, but I interact daily with the general public, and I hear a lot of positivity. So, I'm not here as the cheerleader for the OPP. I'm just telling you what I hear from the residents of Norfolk County. And I think it's important that we all hear that to our councillor and of course the mayor. You know, we've decided to have the OPP, and we have them, and we have budgeted for them. And I think when budget time comes around, knowing all of this positivity that has come forth and renewing the budget when the time comes is paramount, because the resources and the positive interactions have helped us paramount here in Norfolk County. So if there's any other questions or comments, I leave it up to the board. If not, I'll ask for a motion for the presentation, and we'll move on. Member Cruz? You move the motion? Okay. Seconded by Vice Chair Huffman. All in favor? Perfect.
No, Mr. Chair, there's no reports from previous meeting.
Thank you, Board Secretary. So items for consideration. I understand we have 9.1 staff report, and I'm going to leave that to you, Mr. Plott.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to the board. The staff report is before you on page 48. A statutory function of Section 10 boards is outlined in the Police Services Act, which states that boards participate in the selection of a detachment commander, commonly called the police chief. In conversation with the Police Chief Johnson and Chair Santos, staff have outlined what the practical process of selecting a police chief looks like in this report. In effect, a member of the Police Services Board will need to be appointed to serve on the interview panel, which will occur in late May to participate in interviews. And if there's any questions from the board, I'm happy to answer them. Thank you. Sorry, Mr. Chair, we do need to appoint a member to actually serve on this interview panel. So the motion is that staff report CAO 22067, appointment of members to detachment commander police chief interview panel be received as information, and that blank member be appointed to serve as the new detachment commander interview panel. Mr. Chair, I see Member Cruz.
May I nominate Chair Santos?
I'll second that.
You want mine?
So with the mics, only one person can have their mic on at a time.
Testing, testing. Okay, that works perfect. Okay, so we have a mover, which I understand was Member Cruz, seconded by Member Van Houten. Can you hear me? Okay, here we go. Yeah.
So is everybody comfortable with that motion?
It's all in favor? Perfect. It's carried. I apologize. left that page behind. That was page, okay, very good. Okay. So we're just moving on to 9.2. So 9.2, Police Services Board budget and bank account information. I believe that has already been dealt with, so we'll move on, correct? So we'll go on to 9.3, existing website update. Mr. Plott, I'll leave that up to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to the board. There's been several requests from board members that the websites which Norfolk County's website hosts regarding policing be updated. And clerk staff have gone and done the liberty to update these websites with some general information about new members and such. However, a more fulsome review would require additional resources, as current resources available would not permit a fulsome change of the website. But staff are, of course, happy to continue ensuring the website reflects updated information regarding members and meeting dates and as such. Also, staff are looking at streamlining the customer experience process, and we recommend that several of the websites be amalgamated into just one larger website, which would just allow that any information regarding policing in Norfolk County be found in this one site with some hyperlinks to external sites.
Here we go. Sorry, do we have any discussion? Member Cruz?
That sounds reasonable to me, the recommendation. For ease of the community getting online.
Through you, Mr. Chair, that is correct. There's currently 3 sites that the Norfolk County website hosts. It's a police services one, a Ontario Provincial Police one, and a community policing one. And what staff are recommending is that they all be merged into one sort of central web page.
Okay. The reason I ask is because, of course, you know, with Norfolk Police Services Board, we're under the Police Services Act, and then the community policing, they're being looked after by Norfolk County and their policies and bylaws, correct? And then, of course, the OPP, they're on their own with regards to the operations.
Through you, Mr. Chair, regarding the OPP site, really that just hosts a series of hyperlinks. There's no real information regarding OPP services on the county website for somewhat obvious reasons. So our recommendation, we will just take those hyperlinks and say, if you're curious or want more information about Ontario policing, this is sort of the links. It's more of a database than anything.
Okay. All right. Thank you. No other questions. I saw your hand up, Mr. Van Houten. You're good? Okay. So taking that into consideration, may I have a mover and a seconder for this motion? The motion states that staff report CAO 22-068 existing website updates be received as information, and that the board approve the combining of web pages that reference the Norfolk Police Services Board, the OPP, and the Community Policing Committee onto one website for efficiency purposes. So we need a mover and a seconder. So it was moved by Vice Chair Huffman. Seconded by Member Van Houten. All in favor? Okay, it's carried. Thank you. We'll move on to 9.4. Just bear with me one second. My 9.4 says, no, that I believe is already dealt with, correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we can go to 9.5. Okay.
So we'll move on to 9.5. Discussions re speeding concerns on Nelson Street and Radical Road. Councillor Huffman or Vice Chair Huffman, you'd like to introduce this discussion?
Thank you, Chair Santos. Through you, this was an issue that was brought forward from a council member, and that there was, I believe, now I'm not the councillor for Ward 6, so I want to make sure I have my facts correct. I believe that there has just been some new paving that has been done in that area, and the residents have noticed that there has been quite an increase in traffic, speed traffic, in those areas of Nelson Street and Radical Road. So we wanted to bring that forward for the consideration of our OPP detachment.
Thank you, Chair. No, again, we can pay attention to it. You know, as I say often, we see we're doing our part with regards to visibility and traffic safety. So thank you for bringing this to our attention. I just encourage people to let us know if you can say, the councillor, please go through the normal channels. Let us know if there's encourage the community to call us if there's issues that we can deal with in a timely fashion. 100% we will provide support. I'll tell you, quite frankly, to the board, one challenge always is that it's we get a complaint of traffic complaint or a speeding complaint, and we can do it. It's just sometimes we need to prioritize, and it's so difficult to go over on this street and over on this street and then on this street. And as a leader, I try to focus our people as to what the issue is. We can give it some attention, but sustainability becomes very difficult, right? So 100% we will look at it. We will give it some attention so the community sees we're out there. It sometimes is very difficult to meet the needs of every single person that observes a complaint of speeding. So we like to balance what the actual, is there a perceived issue? Is it a real issue? And so we'll, anyway, just awareness for the chair, for the board, and for staff that we will respond without a doubt, just what we can do for sustainability.
Thank you, Chief. Chief, if I can just add the protocol. Is there a protocol? So if a citizen comes to me and says, Mr. Santos, we have a concern on Norfolk Street North. Is it easier for me, Chief, instead of sending you an email, directing that individual to go into the detachment, speak to the staff sergeant with the concerns and have that staff sergeant look into that issue? Would that be better? I mean, it's proactive community policing, or we will continue either receiving these complaints and funneling them to you as the chief of police?
Thank you, Chair Santos. Very valid question, because I receive emails from a wide variety of, which is fine. I'm welcome to that. But the problem is that they take a while to get to us, right? And I just encourage all of you and the community at large. We have an administrative phone number, 1-888-310-1122. 1-888-310-1122. So that's non-emergent phone calls. So this is treated as a call for service for us. So if somebody has a speeding complaint or a driving complaint or any of those types of things that are not, a possible impaired driver or something that's urgent right at the time that needs to be addressed, but they put the call into that, it then gets sent to an officer as a call for service. And then the officer then will figure out exactly what's needed, share that by an internal communication, say, we've identified, we've got a complaint, can you please pay attention to this? And depending on what the result, where it's at, what's happening, what the type of complaint, what the assessment is, we'll create a focused patrol of which we report back to you for a period of time. The problem becomes is if people go to council or go to a variety of different police service board, then there's a delay, only by virtue of it comes to you, it comes to me, I send it to the staff sergeant sends it to, and it's up and then back down, whereas, and it may be days and days later by the time it gets action, whereas if it's a real concern, we would like the community to log their concern with the police, and then we take action with regards to that. And it's not a matter we don't go and say, hey, Sean Johnson was the complainant in this stop sign violation or speeding. We just react to that. As Acting Staff Sergeant Page points out, we do have other pieces to this. You may not see a police officer up there, but we do have speed spy sign. So before we start sending resources out and taking action, what we would do is we would put the speed spy sign out and do our own assessment with regards to, is it a problem? Because sometimes, depending on the size of vehicle, depending on where it's at, the vehicles, especially commercial motor vehicles, may sound they're actually traveling faster than they are. We'll get the data, we'll look at it, we'll say, yes, 62% of the people are traveling in excess of 30 over. This is an issue. So that allows us to decide where we're sending our resources and making sure we're maximizing our resources for the community's needs. So long and the short is, please encourage people to report it to the police. The police will treat it as a call for service and act accordingly.
So here we go again. Sorry. So I think it's important that I'll share that information with our counselors and the mayor and with our members of the board that, of course, will follow that protocol. And I think that would definitely open up some better doors of communication between the police and the general public and our efficiency. And it's not to divert, Chief, from yourself or the staff sergeants, but I think it's important because you're right. Based on what you've just told us with regards to focus patrol and speed spy signs, makes a lot of sense. So it's just a matter of educating. So I will educate our members and also educate council and the mayor in that regard. So thank you once again, Chief.
Thank you, Chair Santos. And I always say, if the council or police service board members have concerns around inaction or concerns about that, it's an ongoing thing and we're not seeing this stuff, then obviously supervision needs to be a part of that, and my engagement or the staff sergeant's engagement, without a doubt. And again, that doesn't have to come from the official body of the police service board. Community can reach out to our staff sergeant and say, hey, I've complained 3 times and I haven't seen anything, because that's what's going to happen anyway, whether it comes from this table, the people, or it comes from the community. I'll say, Staff Sergeant Page, I need you to look into this and report back to the community member as to what action we have taken. Those are the things that happen no matter which avenue, and I'm just trying to streamline your busy schedules. Thank you.
We should vote on that, Mr. Chair. Did I miss the vote?
Vice Chair Huffman? Yeah. All those in favor? Yeah. Sorry, I'm so focused on this mic here going off and on that I've just missed out here, so I apologize. Thank you. Thank you, Secretary Blott. Okay, so moving on, items for consideration. I believe I have here on my notes items for consideration, and I don't see that on the agenda. So just bear with me because I know there's 2 agendas. There's the updated agenda.
Mr. Chair, there's no additional items from the previous business.
There isn't. Okay, if I could just bring one point. In the last month and a half, we lost a detective. His name is Mark Leach. He worked here at Norfolk County, and he was transferred, I believe, to St. Catharines or the Niagara area. And I just wanted to send my condolences to the family, to the Leach family, and his wife, Heather. So to Mr. and Mrs. Leach, I believe it's Mrs. Irene Leach and Mr. Jim Leach, who were the parents of Mr. Leach. Mr. Mark Leach, who was a detective with the OPP, unfortunately, in the last several years, had been dealing with a number of true difficulties in the profession. It's not easy. And so I promised the family that I would attend the wake, but unfortunately the wake I thought was going to be on the Sunday happened to be on the Friday. So I wanted to apologize to the family, but I just wanted the family to know that the OPP family and the Norfolk Police Services family are thinking of you, and just wanted to give our condolences. I did speak to Mr. and Mrs. Leach, so I feel much better in doing that, but I also wanted to bring it to the board so that the board is well aware. And with that, I also want to bring to note Mr. Stan Gotch, who's a family friend of our family. who is dealing with brain cancer. And unfortunately, he has been a member of the OPP here in Norfolk County for numerous years, and he is not well. And so I just wanted to let the family know that the OPP family and the Norfolk Police Services Board will keep their family in our prayers and hope for the best. This profession in policing is not easy, as it isn't in many professions, but I just wanted to let the Gotch family know that we're thinking of them and we hope for the best. And I am planning to meet with Mr. Gotch, if not this weekend, first thing Monday or Tuesday of next week. So I wanted to just bring that to everyone's attention. I mean, in reality, these are things that we must deal with, but it's also important that the public is aware that they're not forgotten, and we shall not forget them for the service that they've given us here in Norfolk County. So with that, we will move on to the agenda if there's no questions or comments. And sorry, Vice Chair Huffman.
Thank you, Chair Santos. Through you, I just wanted to update the Police Services Board on something that occurred at Council yesterday. Going through the, we came to the realization that there was not a council member assigned to the Community Policing Committee, which is something that, as Teresa Olson had mentioned before, they kind of got hit bad with the COVID piece and not being able to kind of get their meetings going and things like that. So we passed a motion that there will be a council representative on the Community Policing Committee effective immediately, and that will be me. We decided that it would be the most cohesive manner to have whichever councillor is a member of the Police Services Board to be a member of the Community Policing Committee, and just to kind of streamline things. And also another thing that's occurred through our procedural bylaws is that when committees meet, they may have recommendations at their committees, and we've been made aware that we've been kind of not doing it properly. So we're now doing it properly. And so yesterday I brought forward for example, the community policing, they had requested that a member of the OPP and a staff member from Norfolk County Bylaw Enforcement Department be invited to the next committee meeting to provide a presentation regarding cannabis. They can't just go ahead and do that. It has to come through council. So anyways, that was done yesterday, so that will be occurring. So the community, hopefully at their next meeting, the Community Policing Committee will have a member of the OPP and bylaw enforcement to discuss cannabis. That's my update.
Thank you, Vice Chair Huffman. If I can just let you know that I believe the next meeting is June the 28th for the community policing.
Yes.
At 6 p.m. And if you could be so kind to contact the chair, which I believe is Mrs. Montgomery, just to advise her that you'll be attending.
Yes,
and
she'll be made aware. Teresa will make her aware, but yeah, I'll probably touch base with Jean prior to June. Yeah.
Thank you, Madam. Okay, any other questions or comments? If not, point 12, I believe, is to the media. I don't see any media here. So being that there is no media, we'll move on to the adjournment. So members of the Police Services Board, our next meeting for the Police Services will be Wednesday, September the 21st at 2022 at 9 a.m. here. So with that, I am going to request a motion to adjourn. And that is Member Van Houten as motioned. And I need a seconder. We have Member Cruz. All in favor? Okay. Have a great summer. Safe summer. And we look forward to seeing everyone back Wednesday, September the 21st at 9 a.m. Thank you. Chief, and to the staff sergeants, thank you once again for all your work.